All right, what's up, everybody? Jake here with NomadicHustle.com, and today I have a special guest with me, James from Start Selling Stuff, and he's actually taking my interviewing virginity. So a little bit nervous here, but very excited because I've known James for a while, and he's quite the online business guru. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing well, thank you very much, James, and thank you for the kind words.
Hey, no problem, man. I know we've known each other for what, I think a year and a half now, chatting on Twitter and WhatsApp and whatnot. But I've really been impressed with how many, different types of online businesses you've had success with in the last couple of years. It's been truly impressive, especially for someone your age. So can you kind of introduce yourself, kind of what you do and give the audience a little bit more information?
Definitely. All right. So I'm currently 19 years old. I've been building websites for a few years now. I started with the blog Red Pill Reviews, or at least that was my first sort of successful venture. I've made most of my money with niche sites, and basically what I did there was write reviews, get them to rank in Google using really very basic SEO stuff. I'm actually not as good, in my own opinion, I'm not as good as you are at this, Jake. What I do is I just find really easy keywords that have strong buyer intent. So review keywords are great for this. If someone's searching for a review of whatever product, chances are they want to buy, and that's what I profit on and how I have made most of my money.
Yeah, and
Now,
oh, go ahead.
currently I'm trying to transition to more of a teaching role, and what I'm teaching is dropshipping, which is another business model I've got into and found success with in the last 5 or 6 months now.
Okay. And now, I know you talked a little bit about SEO there. You actually kind of motivated me to start doing some more reviews because I feel like I do know SEO a little bit, but once I started seeing how you were just basically like hitting review after review and basically, I felt like my traffic was growing, but my income might really wasn't until I kind of started seeing what you were doing and how you basically were taking these keywords that were maybe getting 100, 200 views a month and turning them into really profitable pages on your blog or on your niche site. Now, why did you decide to go from niche sites to dropshipping? Because you kind of made like a complete 360, I guess, where you were basically, building tons of niche sites, and then you basically looked at the market and said dropshipping is where you want to go. Kind of, how did you reach that decision?
All right, so I guess I achieved what most beginners dream of, and that's a passive income that you can live on. I mean, I was making 3 to 5 grand every month consistently for over half a year with my niche sites. At the same time, I was trying to scale those, and it wasn't really working. I mean, I kept increasing a bit, and then an affiliate program, a big one, dropped off, or traffic decreased, interest decreased in a product. So I kept building new sites, and they replaced the old ones that were dropping off. So I decided if I really want to take my business to the next level, niche sites are not the way to go. And I started experimenting with paid traffic. So I've done some CPA affiliate marketing, which is sort of the scammiest of the scammy online marketing tactics, where you go on these really cheap sites like online movie streaming sites and you do those ads there. You send people to iPhone giveaways and that kind of thing. And I did that for a while, made a little money, mostly lost money, and through that I got into dropshipping, which is a huge trend both in the CPA affiliate marketing world and also sort of on YouTube. I mean, it's just crazy the amount of interest there is in Shopify dropshipping right now. Talking about that, I mean, I just had a reporter reach out to me yesterday from the BBC because she's writing a piece on young people, yeah, mostly young men, doing Shopify dropshipping. So it has reached the mainstream. It is crazy the amount of interest there is in Shopify dropshipping right now, which is what got me into it. And it's also the reason why I'm teaching it, just because there's so much interest in this content. And it's something I do feel I have value I can provide, because while I'm far from the most experienced, definitely not the person making the most money, I have learned a lot, and I do have information that I can give on to people which they can't find anywhere else as of now.
Yeah. Now I've been noticing because I've followed you for a while. How
So
you?
does that kind of answer your question?
Oh yeah, no, that was great, and congratulations on the BBC interview. That's pretty impressive for a 19-year-old man. All right, yeah. So, dude, I think you're underplaying your success a little bit because you've had some great success, and if I was going to learn drop shipping from anybody, it would definitely be you. Not just because you're on this interview, but because I actually believe that you know the shit you're talking about, and I would actually start making money if I followed you. Now, if you were starting online today, you had $0 and no idea what to do. Would you go to drop shipping, or would you still advise people to look at niche sites if they're brand new to making money online?
Okay, so I'll actually start with something you just said there. You said that you believe you would succeed with dropshipping with my help, and I agree with you because you already understand sales. I've noticed that the people that get into dropshipping that already have a copywriting background or a blogging background where they sell stuff, those are the guys that get the hang of it really quickly because the structure of dropshipping isn't difficult. It's the selling that's difficult. So would I get into dropshipping from day one? I wouldn't because I didn't have the money. When I was getting started with niche sites, I wouldn't have had enough money. I recommend that you have a budget of 500 to 1,000 US dollars that you can just spend completely on ads that you are willing to lose. Because the worst thing that can happen is that you spend your whole budget and you're not profitable yet. Because as you spend money, you learn more and you get better at it. But if you don't have enough money to keep going until the time where you become profitable, you sort of end up having to quit. So you're forced into quitting right before you would make money. And I think that's a really horrible situation to be in. So I actually recommend most people, if you don't have a lot of money to spend and you don't already have a strong understanding of sales, then I would start with something else. I wouldn't start with dropshipping. I would go with niche sites. They're very easy to start, low startup cost. They teach you copywriting, they teach you how to sell, and you can also make really good money with it. So later on down the line, you can always transition into different business models as I have done myself. So
Okay, yeah.
alternatively, you could go down the freelance copywriting route. I have recommended that to people as well, where instead of building niche sites, which can take 6 to 12 months to bring in revenue, you read a copywriting book, go on Upwork or whatever freelance site is popular right now, do some copywriting gigs so that money comes in and you practice selling. After that, once you have a budget and a foundational understanding of sales, I think you'll be in a lot better position to get into dropshipping then.
Yeah, and I think you're definitely right. There's making money online. The core of it is sales. The core of it is copywriting. The core of it is really turning traffic into conversions. Now, with copywriting, that's kind of what you got started with, right? You were studying copywriting and you decided to start some niche sites. If you're going to give people maybe one or two resources, I know I'm positive you've written about this before on a different niche site, but if you're going to give people one or two copywriting books or resources to really just study and start out and learn how to sell, what would you recommend?
My number one recommendation is the book Cashvertising. I think it's the best book I've read, and it's a really good introductory read. There's tons of copywriting books. Honestly, if you've read one or two, you've got a good understanding. The more books you read, you'll usually get something new, but you'll also get 90% that you've read in Cashvertising. So if you know nothing about copywriting, start with Cashvertising. Books you can move on to, perhaps I'd recommend Boron Letters or yeah, I mean, there's tons of these books. If you just look on Amazon, similar books to Cashvertising, you will find plenty. Science of Selling, it's also good, but that's for more sort of broader term, broader sales tactics. Triggers by Joseph Sugarman is another very good book for copywriting. But I think Cashvertising is probably the best book to start with.
Yeah, and that's funny because I actually have Cashvertising right in front of me because I have a shelf of books, and that's one of them I have on there, and it's definitely one of my favorites as well. Although I think you have a little deeper understanding of copywriting than I do. So, kind of what I'm getting from you, and maybe this is partly what I'm thinking as well, is there's kind of like a progression that, if you're starting out making money online, you really want to look at, getting your fundamentals down. And I think you said something about really not reading blog posts, but really looking at foundational information from books about copywriting, and then maybe going to offering copywriting services to really get your understanding online sales before you start building niche sites, blogs, dropshipping stores, stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I actually think niche sites are a good way to practice sales because while you do learn from books, you don't really truly internalize it until you put it into practice. And the more you write, the better your flow gets. And that's something I see a huge problem with a lot of new guys with dropshipping, that they understand copywriting, but the product descriptions they write and the ads they write, they just don't flow properly. So it's another advantage of starting with niche sites, becoming a better writer, and then moving on to dropshipping.
And with dropshipping, I don't know enough about it. Are you saying basically that the product descriptions and the ads, if you don't write those with really strong copy, you're basically flushing money down the toilet? That's kind of what I'm getting from what you're saying.
Well, you're certainly making it harder for yourself. To be honest, there are some websites where the product copy isn't great, but these are experienced dropshippers that really know what they're doing. Otherwise, they run brilliant Facebook ads. And I think the easiest way to get into dropshipping is by having a solid understanding of sales and writing good descriptions, because it's hard to quantify, but if you do that right, you set yourself up for a foundation of success. Without that, it's possible to succeed, but it's a lot harder, put it that way.
Interesting. Okay. And now, I'm kind of just beating you to death on this topic, but it's really interesting to me because I do trust what you have to say on the topic. With drop shipping, we've talked about this before. With niche sites, it's something where you're publishing something consistently for 2 or 3 months, and then 3 to 6 months down the road, it starts to pay off. With a niche site or even a blog, a lot of times, until you get a huge fan base, you're not going to get traffic on articles for 3 to 6 months after you publish them. With drop shipping, you're going to see that success a little bit quicker, correct?
Yes, absolutely. And the advantage is that you see success basically instantly within a day or two, but you also see your failures a lot quicker. And that, I think, is a huge frustration and a bit of a problem with niche sites, where if you're just getting started, whatever you do, chances are your first venture will fail. And with niche sites, you don't know that you've got a bad idea or a bad execution on your hands until 3 to 6 months down the line. That's not the case with dropshipping. With dropshipping, if I launch a new product today on my store, I use Facebook ads to get traffic to that. By the end of the week, I know whether that product has potential or whether it's a dud. And this really speeds up your learning curve. So you're spending money to learn rather than spending a lot of time waiting. So that's sort of the trade-off you have there.
Definitely. And now with drop shipping, kind of changing the course here, you talk a lot about Facebook ads. Is there other ways to get traffic to your drop shipping store than throwing money at Facebook ads until you find something that's profitable?
Absolutely. In fact, I don't recommend Facebook ads for complete beginners. I think the best way, or the easiest and cheapest way to get started, are shout-outs on Instagram. Now,
Wait, you're saying Instagram just isn't for DMing girls?
no,
Oh,
it
okay.
isn't, actually. You might be surprised to hear this.
A little bit.
So the great thing about Instagram is it's really simple. You message bigger pages, ask them to put a shout out, an image or a story ad on their page. You pay them a little bit and you put the link to your product in their description. The only really moving parts to an ad campaign then are your product, the page you choose, and the ad copy you choose. Those are the three variables you have. With Facebook, you've got so much more. There's thousands of different options, settings you can tick, untick, different targeting you can do. So for a beginner who knows nothing, you don't know whether your niche is good, you don't know whether your product's good, you don't know whether your product pages are good, it's hard to figure out what you're doing wrong. With Instagram influencer shoutouts, there's only three moving parts. So if it's not working, either the page sucks, your product sucks, or your product page, your ad, your copy sucks. So those are the three moving parts, and it's a lot easier to figure out. It's a lot easier to get these three things right rather than trying to figure out what the problem is out of 100 different things that could go wrong.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so, if you're going to start a dropshipping store and your budget was really tight, you'd say recommend going with those Instagram shoutouts. And how much are those? Like 10 or $25 a piece?
I recommend going with shoutouts that are $10 to
Okay.
$25 a piece when you're getting started, because you don't want to spend too much on a product and a page that you don't know whether it works. Once you have a product that converts, you can then spend $100 on a single shoutout to get a bigger page. That's sort of how you scale these shoutouts. So that's kind of a misconception that Instagram is fine for getting started, but then you have to move to Facebook to scale. I don't think that's true. You can scale on Instagram, you just go to bigger pages. Of course, the actual advantage to Facebook ads is that it's a lot more consistent and it's a lot more passive. Because if you set up a shout out today, you might make $200 profit today. But unless you set up another shout out tomorrow, you won't make anything tomorrow. With Facebook, you've got a daily ad spend and it will spend that amount without you doing any extra work the following day. So perhaps if we want to move on and you've already got some customers on your store, you've sold products via Instagram influencer shoutouts, what you can then do to make your income more consistent is you take your customer data from Shopify, you export it, and then you import it into Facebook. So you create a list in Facebook. This is really easy to do. You can just Google this. It'll show you exactly how to do this. You import your customers to Facebook, and then you tell Facebook to create a lookalike audience. What that means is Facebook looks through all the data that you give it, and they look for people in their database who are as similar as possible to this group you've imported. So essentially what you get is the people who Facebook thinks are most likely to be your customers, and you can then target them with ads. And that honestly is what I think the best way to transition from Instagram to Facebook is. And that's actually what I do with my established stores. I don't mess with Instagram influencer shoutouts much anymore, just because the return on my time invested isn't great. Instead, I've got these lookalike audiences and I test new products using them because I know they convert, and they convert better than anything else I've tried.
All right. Well, that's very in depth, and that's a great tip. And I'm you're kind of convincing me to start a dropshipping store and maybe give it a shot with some Instagram influencer shout outs and kind of see where it goes from there. But let's get on to a different topic, because I know we've talked for about.
Can I just jump in there quickly?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I see this problem where I talk a lot about dropshipping, and I love dropshipping. I really do.
Okay.
Because I like paid traffic. I love the business model. But I see too many people jumping into it, and I've actually had multiple messages in the past few weeks where people said they're starting dropshipping because of me. And I don't really want to be the guy convincing people. I don't want to be the guy who's getting you into dropshipping, or getting Kyle into dropshipping, or getting any other follower into this, because it is a cool business model, but there's no reason why you should do this instead of what you're currently doing. It's just an extra option, something you can learn, something you can make money with. It is not the end-all be-all, and a lot of people think it's all I do because it's what I talk about most, but it is absolutely not the main focus of my online business, or the time I spend on my online businesses, and it's also not my biggest income source. So that's just a little caveat I like to throw in here.
Oh, dude, I definitely know that, and a lot of it once you start doing stuff online, I feel like it's just a learning process. You want to try things out, and you want to test things out, and see what works, see what doesn't work. It's kind of just an experiment, you know. You live at a certain point, you just want to experiment with things and try new things out and see if you can make it work. I see what you're saying there, where you don't want to tell somebody, especially somebody maybe who has an online presence a little bit, switch to drop shipping completely. And that's definitely wasn't what I was saying. But seeing you do the drop shipping stuff after basically transitioning a little bit away from niche sites, it's kind of interesting. It's really interesting to me personally. To just kind of see that journey and see maybe I can test that out sometime and see if I can do it too. So that's kind of what I was saying there. I'm not gonna stop blogging or anything like that, but that is good information. So let's switch it up a little bit because we've talked about a little bit over 20 minutes on your drop shipping and everything. I know you're also a young guy and you're ready to get out there and do a little travel lately. What's your summer plans?
All right, so in the summer, I'm going to see three different cities and I'm spending a month in Central Europe. So I'm going to go to Budapest for 2 weeks, roughly 2.5 weeks.
That'll be
I'm
terrible,
spending,
man. That'll just be awful.
oh yeah, it's not at all looking forward to that.
No, no, definitely not.
Then I'm also going to have a short trip to Bratislava, which is actually only an hour or two away on the train from Budapest. So I don't think there's too much to see in this town, but I'm hoping to see a bit more of a communist background, and it's also supposed to have some nice parties. So
Is
we'll
that
see how
that's
that goes.
Slovakia, correct?
It is, yes,
Okay, okay.
Slovakia, Slovenia. I think it's Slovakia.
I think it's Slovakia, but I'm definitely not going to try to pronounce it. So, what was the third city? Sorry for interrupting you there.
The third city is Belgrade, Serbia.
Oh, okay. That's one that's definitely on my list too. What excites you about Belgrade?
Well, it's a place I haven't been. That's the one thing. I've been to Budapest before and I absolutely loved it. Spent a few days there last summer and I want to go there for a bit longer now. And I'm kind of testing out this nomad lifestyle that you guys all talk about and rave about to see whether it's something I would want to look into for myself as well in the future. Because right now I'm a student, I live at home, and I want to consider the nomad lifestyle or whether I prefer settling down. So this is kind of a little trial run just for a month, see three different cities, and also get a lot of work done. So I'm not planning on just partying and seeing the sights.
So you're actually going to be working when you're traveling through Europe in the summer? Because I didn't know if you were or not. But yeah, so you're basically giving it like a trial run, what would you call that, digital nomad light for a month to see if it works for you.
Absolutely. And one of the things is I don't record YouTube videos when I'm at home and there's family around and all that. Just find it uncomfortable, and not a lot of people know about what I do, and I like to keep it that way. I'm a very private person in that sense. So actually having my own apartment in these cities is going to allow me to record a lot more content. So that's actually an added benefit. So working when I have my own place has that
Yeah,
benefit that I don't have at home.
no, definitely. I definitely understand that. You definitely feel more open and free to just kind of like roll out of bed and throw on the microphone, throw on the camera, whip open the computer and just do what you want to do. Now, I want to ask you about that. You said you're a really private person and even your like family doesn't really know what you do. What's your kind of rationale from keeping your online business away from your parents and other family members and friends and stuff like that?
That's a very good question. Well, all right. So the reason I sort of keep it secret is, for one thing, I was 16 when I got started with this, and I had no idea whether it was going to succeed. And the way my parents are, they're very supportive, school, sports, gym, all of that. They're also great about girls, that's not at all a problem. But they're conservative. My dad's, he's a working guy. I mean, working guy, works for a big company, and quite sort of successful, all of that. And I'm a very good student. So they would, I know my parents, and especially my dad, who would have tried to talk me out of it. And at the time, I had no idea whether it was going to succeed, but I knew I didn't want to have someone constantly talking down to me and telling me to focus on school and all of that. So I just kept it a secret until I became successful, and I assumed that at some point I was going to tell them, and that's just never happened. So yeah, it's eventually I'll have to tell them, and I'm not quite sure how I'm going to go about that, to be honest. I'm also, I mean, I have to be honest with you, there's a lot of guys on YouTube that talk about and sort of idolize dropping out of high school, and I've never considered that at all. I'm a very good student. I'm probably about top 2 or 3% in my country, and I like going to school. I mean, it's a pain in the ass. A lot of it is stupid. A lot of it is just a waste of time. But we have a blast. We do whatever we want. The teachers can't really tell us anything because we're doing well in class. And yeah, I mean, we're having a good time. So I'm by no means a dropout or someone who wants to drop out and focus on business solely. So yeah, and I've actually nobody in my private life knows about my online business except for my accountant and my banker. So those are the people that know, and yeah,
So
I don't want the attention, you know.
yeah,
I want the attention for being a tall, good-looking guy who's good at sports. I don't want the attention for the money I make online.
yeah, no, I understand. So what happens when your YouTube channel blows up in like 2 or 3 months, and one of your buddies from Europe is, looking on YouTube, and they find your video and they hear your voice and they're like, "Oh shit, that's James." Are you gonna deny it when that eventually happens? Because if you put out as much content as you're putting out with your voice, eventually somebody's going to find out, right?
I don't know. It hasn't happened yet, and that might happen. But you have to remember that there's only about 15 people in the world who've heard me speak English.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think
So
about that. Well,
yeah, and so it's only people who are in my English class or my family who have heard me speak English. Plus, the way I speak on here is different to the way I speak in an English class because I get that horrible German accent that everyone else talks with, and I sort of mix the two. So nobody really knows my voice.
that's very. I didn't even think about that, but yeah, I guess you're pretty safe from that aspect. That's really interesting, though. I mean, so you're in high school now. That's what you said. I didn't know if you had started university or not. You're still in high school?
I'm in my last year, yes.
Okay, and you're gonna go to university for 4 years, correct?
I don't know.
Okay, so
I'm probably going to start. I'm fairly sure I'm going to start because university here in my small European country is very cheap. It costs $1,000 a semester, and I can go to the top school, the top business school. For one thing, I'm interested in it. I mean, I really do like business studies. I'm not one of these guys who thinks university is just completely useless. And besides the actual content, I also think the connections could be useful because this school I'm planning on going to, my classmates, they'll be either senior management or there'll be a few CEOs in that 20 years post graduation or 30 years post grad. So I think it's a good opportunity to meet guys who are going to be making a lot of money
yeah.
in 20, 30 years. And since I'm having a blast with school, I think university is probably even going to be better than school, moving out from home and all that. I think I'm going to have a good first year there, and then I'll see how the online business is going and decide whether I want to continue or not.
So you're basically gonna go do the digital nomad light a little bit this summer, go to university for a year, and then reevaluate things after that point and decide whether you're going to get your degree or if you're going to go, full time on the online stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
Interesting. Well, I think that's about it for today, man. I really appreciate you popping my interview cherry here and talking with me for a little bit this morning. It was some great content, and I really think people who are listening to this would find great value in that drop shipping versus niche site comparisons that you've talked about.
All right, yeah, I mean, we talked about some good stuff, and I hope you guys find this useful. If any of your readers or listeners have questions for me, I answer all questions. If it isn't quite too stupid or generic, just DM me on Twitter, send me a message, whatever. I'll get back to you.
Yeah, and definitely follow James at startsellingstuff.com, and I'll link up both his website and his Twitter profile in this podcast so you can easily find him. If you want to know more about copywriting, dropshipping, niche sites, anything like that, or you're just a young guy who wants to follow somebody that's made more money online than a lot of people have in a lifetime, and he's not even 20. So again, this is James from Start Selling Stuff, and thank you guys for listening. If you dig this podcast, please subscribe.